Welcome to our annual hybrid PWPA-LA conference. Thank you for being here with us this morning. So as we start our conference, yes, my name is Jasmine Santoro, and I will be your MC for today's program. And I know we still have a few more professors who will be coming in as I speak, but we wanted to take this time to recognize all the professors we have joining us here today. So in a little bit, I will also recognize those joining us virtually through Zoom. So for those on Zoom, if you're able to turn on your cameras, we would love to see your beautiful smiles. But I would like to start with those of us here at Cal State LA. First, we have here Dr. Chris Laszlo from Case Western Reserve University, flew in to join us. He's here with his wife, Mrs. Lakshmi, so you might see her around. And later joining us will be Ms. Stephanie Del Rosario from Cal State Fullerton. At our next table, we have from Pasadena City College, Professor Emily Fernandez. And a little bit later, we will also have Ms. Tamara Wallace from Cal State Fullerton joining us. At our next table, we have Professor Alison Wakelin from Widener University. At this table here, we have Dr. Yewon Sung from Cal State San Bernardino. From here, Cal State LA, we have Professor Sam Chow. And from Pasadena City College, Professor Innocent Egbunike. So again, we will have a few more professors joining us a little bit later in our program. But we also wanted to recognize we have our PWPA-LA Advisory Committee members. They're professors who've helped us tremendously, give us amazing advice, and support us in many ways. So I want to recognize Dr. David Blekhman is here from Cal State LA. Professor Grace Apiafi from Pasadena City College. And joining us in a little bit, Dr. Joanna Schilling from Cypress College. As President Emeritus. And we also have our PWPA International President, Dr. Thomas and Dr. Grace Selover. So thank you so much for joining us. And we can't see them here, but in a little bit on the screen, we're going to see those joining us virtually through Zoom. And so we're grateful that they can be here, actually joining from all around the world. So we would like to recognize those joining us on Zoom. So we have from Tohono O'odham Community College, Dr. Adrian Quijada. Thank you for being here. From Syracuse University, Dr. Cliff Davidson. Good to see you again. From Brown University, Dr. Takahiro Hiroi. And from the Satyana Institute, Dr. William Keepin. So thank you for being here with us today. Yes, and I want to say a big thank you to all of our students and supporters who are also joining us here today. So whether you join us annually or this is your first time ever, welcome. We are the Los Angeles chapter of the Professors World Peace Academy. We are a nonprofit organization pioneered by Dr. Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon in 1973 that seeks to put ideals into practice for the sake of realizing peace. To achieve this goal, we launched the Los Angeles chapter in June of 2022. So to briefly introduce PWPA-LA, our history and our vision, I would like to share a short video introduction. So if you can please turn your attention to the screens.
Professors World Peace Academy, or PWPA, was established on May 6, 1973 by Reverend Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon with world-renowned scholars in order to support research and activities for building a peaceful world. Back then, they saw there were many signs of the decline of America. What about drug problems? Free sex and juvenile crime problems? What about the breakdown of families? 3 out of every 4 marriages in America ended in divorce. What about racial problems and the threat of communism? Even at this moment, fierce wars and brutal massacres are going on in numerous places around the globe. Many people are suffering from the effects of climate change, environmental pollution, regional conflicts, and particularly from a confusion of values. We must fundamentally change this deplorable situation and open a new era of peace. Reverend and Mrs. Moon founded PWPA to be a trailblazing organization at this critical moment in human history to mobilize those intellectuals who have devoted their lives to the advancement of human wisdom and to enable them to play a leading role in overcoming the dangers of the age and opening new pathways to world peace. If the world is to solve its many problems, it needs leaders. The founders sincerely hope that the member scholars of PWPA will participate actively, not passively, in the search for and realization of the universal human ideals. PWPA exists not only for the advancement of the sciences, but also for the practical promotion of the well-being of humankind, thereby differing from most other scholarly institutions. PWPA is international, multidisciplinary, future-oriented, and action-oriented. The goal of PWPA is to put ideals into practice by generating new ideas by which peace can be realized and actively participating in their implementation. Mutual cooperation across national and regional boundaries and interdisciplinary studies that go beyond limited specializations are absolutely necessary. Like-minded academic professionals from various fields and disciplines have joined together in PWPA to search for truth and goodness with intellect and conscience under the goal of making a contribution to the development of a new culture for the welfare of all humankind.
So thank you to the PWPA-LA team for that video. So our theme for today's conference is Environmental Stewardship through Interdisciplinary Dialogue, in search of shared strategies. We are gathered here together as professors, faculty members, scholars, and students to explore environmental issues, their fundamental causes, and the innovative solutions and approaches needed to address them. And we want to have this space and time to have discussions on how we can take steps forward to a more sustainable future. So our program today features many insightful presentations and also opportunities for discussion. And so just a brief program overview of what we will be going through in these next 2 hours. We will have opening remarks by Dr. Thomas and Dr. Grace Selover. Then we will go into the environmental topics portion of our program, where we will hear a presentation from Dr. David Blekhman on the EcoCar project taking place here at Cal State LA. Then we will hear from Dr. Rattan. He will be speaking on improving global food system resilience against geopolitical conflicts under changing climate and polluting soil. Then we will have the chance for day-pool discussions. For those joining us in person, on Zoom we will have breakout rooms. And then we will go into the fundamental solutions portion of our program, where we will hear from Professor Alison Wakelin on To Love the Land, A Duty of Care, and from Dr. Laszlo on global consciousness and the role of business. Then we will have a chance for questions and answers with our speakers. We will then go into a brief intermission, and then we will have a video presentation by PWPA-LA, and then we will go into our panel featuring sustainability representatives from various campuses. And that will bring us to our closing remarks and our group photo. But yes, we have an exciting program, and we look forward to sharing this time together with all of you. So thank you again for taking the time to be here. To begin, I would like to welcome up our PWPA International President for the opening remarks. We have Dr. Thomas Selover, is the International Co-Coordinator of IAAP, the International Association of Academicians for Peace. He has a doctorate in comparative religion and East Asian philosophy from Harvard University and has taught for over 25 years at universities in the US, Canada, China, and in Korea. His wife, Dr. Grace Selover, has completed her Doctorate of Ministry degree at Sonak UP Graduate University, in Korea, focusing on emerging women's pastoral leadership. They drove from Las Vegas to join us today, so please help me in welcoming them up.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. It was a pleasure to be here and to share this time and opportunity with all of you, distinguished professors, PWPA Advisory Council, and students and colleagues and friends. Good morning on behalf of PWPA International. Professors World Peace Academy has a long tradition of seeking shared strategies through interdisciplinary dialogue, which is our sub-theme today. That's what the founders of PWPA, Dr. Samyang Moon, Dr. Hak Ja Han, have envisioned from the beginning. Now in this new era of PWPA, with new generations rising up, we are adapting new forms to be effective in the current and future environment. Yet still, our basic identity is the same. Professors, that's who we are. Professors and professors to be. We will be hearing from 4 distinguished professors, as we just heard this morning, on our conference theme of environmental stewardship, and also on campus initiatives for sustainability. So we're very much graced this morning with intellectual stimulation. World peace, that's our goal. The world is our arena of concern, and peace is the goal we are striving for. Starting from the individual level of peaceful mindfulness, each one of us, one by one, the family, the community, all the way to the nation and the world, especially the natural environment. Indeed, world peace with the natural world around us is urgent today, both morally and also practically. And last, academy. An academy is where we are. It's a place. It's our surroundings, whether in person or virtually, whether physical or in cyberspace, where understandings are shared and critical conversations can take place. So we are a gathering, and we continue from gathering to be working together. In expanding that, we're very glad to have panelists from our area campuses on sustainability initiatives. Yesterday, we had another PWPA conference on the subject of consciousness. And I believe that the heavenly parental consciousness in whom we live and move and have our being was pleased with our efforts yesterday, and I also believe that heaven will be pleased with our efforts today as we are sharing understandings together and making a way for new understanding to come to all of us. So, this will be a very fruitful time together, and I'd like to ask Dr. Grace to share a word or two as well.
Just very briefly, as some of you may already knew, that the co-founder of PWPA, Dr. Hak Ja Han, also known as Mother of Peace, she has expressed great concerns about environmental challenges. And she has guided, encouraged, and advised the PWPA to take up this cause as mission responsibility. So let this conference be catalyst for each one of us to really be able to transform where we are having our discussion, to be able to transform our discussion into an individual personal commitment to improve the environment in our surroundings, and with grateful heart to make this world a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas and Dr. Grace Selover, for those opening remarks. So to go into our first presentation, I would like to invite up Dr. David Blekhman. He is the Professor of Sustainable Energy and Transportation and a founding technical director for the Hydrogen Research and Fueling Facility here at Cal State LA. The station is the only facility in the world on an academic campus that produces its own hydrogen via electrolysis. He's an internationally recognized expert in hydrogen transportation, and last year he was recognized as CSULA's President's Distinguished Professor. He is also our PWPA-LA Advisory Committee member, so please help me in welcoming up for his EcoCar project.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to this wonderful event. I really enjoy being part of this group, and what I do here is more on the technical side. So I share about technologies, and I share how what are potential solutions to the environment, right? And reality, it's not just the technology, it's also the people, right? So EcoCar project is partially about technology, but more about our students and making our students stewards of the future of environment through cleaner transportation. And Cal State LA has a really deep history, or actually Cal State LA engineering has a deep history of working on clean transportation, starting with in 1990s, there was a number of vehicles that were built to be solar cars for solar racing. And in 1997, we had our Solar Eagle winning solar race, beating MIT. So MIT came in the second place. So that's a huge, proud moment for Cal State LA, and you can see there is a commemorative Hot Wheels set with, and you still can purchase it if you go like on eBay, right? And so when I joined in 2007, I didn't think about it, but my dean had a belief that we can achieve that, so he approached me, and we started 2 projects. 2011, 2014, it was EcoCar 2, and then 2014, 2018, we did EcoCar 3. So that's a conversion of a vehicle into a plug-in hybrid. So starting with just gasoline engine, we replaced the engine to run on renewable fuel, methanol, and also installed all of the electrical power plant and made it work. And we also had a really nice award from South Coast Air Quality Management District for recognizing not only our technical work, but also our outreach to the communities and educating them on benefits of clean cars. All right, so then we took a little break. It's a really demanding project, this kind of a work in involving so many students and so deep technical expertise required. So we took a break, and then we entered another competition in the same series of advanced vehicle technology competitions, like EcoCar 2 and EcoCar 3. And that was Charging Eagles, but the competition is called Battery Workforce Challenge, where we were developing a battery pack for this Dodge or Ram ProMaster electrical vehicle. So it's already electrical vehicle. It already has its own battery pack with so-called pouch batteries, and we were developing it with cylindrical batteries. And there is a lot of knowledge that goes into this. And so Cal State LA was a part of 12 universities in the competition. And this competition went on for 3 years. We had a number of competition sponsors. And the main sponsors are Department of Energy. The competition is run, all of the competitions are run by Argonne National Labs. And then Stellantis is the vehicle manufacturer, vehicle OEM, from which we got the Ram. And here's our leadership of the student leaders. And over 3 years, the roster has been changing. I'm one of the advisors, but we also have 3 other faculty who were leading technical teams and the team. I'm kind of like, I was just, because I had experience with EcoCar 2 and EcoCar 3, kind of was explaining what to expect and how to deal with the competition, how demanding it is, right? And so this year we just finished it. We still don't know our standing, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. Past 2 years, year 1 and year 2, we were in 6th place out of 12, so which is a pretty good accomplishment considering how steep the competition is. So those are our vehicles on display, and you can see the circle right there. That is our team, and there is a close-up. Right, for the team, but it's only those who travel. There is like a whole bunch of the rest of like another 20 students who are at Cal State LA and did not travel to the final competition. And there are already several students who are already working for Stellantis. So right there. So those are already students, and pretty much everyone's got a job. So this is the very unique competition where students rise above all other graduating students, and it's easy for them to get jobs, especially Stellantis. There is a mentor who works with us, and that mentor picks students and recommends those students to be hired. And so the technical side of the work, so first we practiced with like a mini module battery pack we built. So this is just a prototype. And then we designed like a full size, and a battery pack consists of modules. So you're not like putting all the little batteries together. You put modules first, and then you interconnect modules into the larger battery pack. And we got actually that was a really cool, we got a manufacturability award. So our module was considered the best in the competition for how easy to manufacture. So it was a good design, easy to put into manufacturing process. And you can see more than 300 cells in this single module. So it's 70 pounds and approximately that big. So that's the fish, which is, this is our fish. We are fisher. Yeah, so that's the award. We are very proud of this award. And then there is a thermal design. You guys know, but batteries are fuel in reality. Like it's a chemical fuel put in a battery, and that fuel can be moved forward and back, so it will charge and give energy back. And so that fuel can catch fires, especially if you're not controlling the temperatures. And so thermal system design was important for students. So there was a group who was working on the cooling system. Another thing is called battery disconnect unit. In reality, when vehicle is not running, the battery, the high voltage from the battery is like a 400 volts. Now the newer cars are 800 volts, but ours is around like 350 volts. And we are, this 350 volts is not flowing through the car when you parked, right? Only 12-volt battery. And then 12-volt battery wakes up all the little computers. Little computers talk to each other. For battery, it will be computer. It's called battery management system computer, right? So that battery management system computer will say to the main computer, I'm good to go. So when things are all good to go, and then this is that's where things happen. 12-volt signal is sent to these connectors, like solenoids close, and then you have your 350 volts available to run for the available for the motor to run the vehicle. And that's the thing was built. So that's how it looks in reality. And then you need a computer. So I already mentioned that battery management system. And so students, there is another group, we call them controls engineers. So the controls group developed that little computer for the battery module. And the next competition. So this one is done. So we did all of we needed. Of course, the main product is not the technology. The main product is the students as a next generation of automotive engineers. And so we applied, and it's kind of like a grant. You have to apply and make some financial commitments, resource commitments, and all of that was committed by Cal State LA Engineering. But we are not only engineering, we're also interested in students in business to support the team, and we are interested in students in communication studies to support the team because we have to do a lot of social media, a lot of outreach events. And we also need to manage the team, and team management by business students would be welcome as well. And so the next competition is called EcoCar Innovation Challenge. We have 20 teams, but 2 tracks, one with General Motors and the other one with Stellantis. So Cal State LA is one of the 10 teams. You can see the 2 lists. Here is a General Motors track. Their focus a little bit more on autonomous vehicle technology, and our focus is a little bit more on the electrification of the vehicle. And I'm actually very happy because I graduated from University at Buffalo, and so engineering from Buffalo will be participating for the first time. Yeah, so. All right. So for this competition, we are getting a Jeep Cherokee. And Jeep Cherokee is in the competition. I asked, well, make it a hybrid and make it for off-road applications. And they gave us 4 potential focus areas. One is the utility vehicles. So when you are working for, like, let's say, SoCal Gas or Edison, and you need to go to remote locations. Another one is for traveling enthusiasts. If you want to go like deep into the nature for traveling, like a Land Rover vehicle kind of a competition. The other one is agricultural applications, and this one is emergency response. And guess what? We just think about what did we select in LA? Just don't say it, just think. All right. All right, here it is. Well, we selected the Fire Rescue Command Vehicle. I think that was quite appropriate to what is happening in Los Angeles. As far as the technologies, so those are all different things we will have to be developing and considering in the new vehicle design. But basically, there is a shaft from the engine that goes to the rear drive, so we will disconnect it and put an electric motor there and complete electric drive. So it will be a battery pack, electric motor, and electric motors also need the inverter. We also need to do the charging of the battery. So all of that, you know, full electrification for the rear drive. And then you have, the worst part is, because you already have an engine and now you have electric motor, and engine is driving front wheels, electric motor drives rear wheels, and everything needs to be coordinated. So there will be quite a bit of a control nightmare that we will have to be resolving, controlling 2 power plants for more or less smooth driving. And then, because I already explained that we have so many things to work on, so this is the plan. So it's a year 1, year 2, and 3, and 4. And here are some technical deliverables that we will have. Some of the off-road capability, mechanical design, and then mechanical and electrical integration of the new power plant, and some concepts for the controls. And at the end, we will be testing our vehicle. This is the Stellantis testing ground. It's called Chelsea Proving Grounds in Michigan. And so we'll have to go there and climb that stairs. Or this one, or this one. So it's going to be fun and making sure that everything works. So we look forward to the next 4 years of this competition and working with the students here at Cal State LA and having that little cool truck as well. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Blekhman. That was amazing to hear. I actually want that Hot Wheels version of the car that won. But yes, please let us know. Please keep us updated on how that goes. But I really appreciated your point on the point is raising the next generation to have that mindset. So not necessarily the technology alone, but how do we really educate the next generation? And that will be one of our main speaking points for today. And so next, I would like to introduce Dr. Rattan for his virtual presentation. He is a distinguished professor of soil science and director of the Rattan Center for Carbon Management and Sequestration at Ohio State University. He has mentored over 120 graduate students and 60 postdoctoral researchers and received numerous awards for his research on sustainable agricultural, soil carbon sequestration, and climate-resilient agriculture. In 2021, he was ranked #1 agronomist and #1 environmental scientist by Stanford University's global ranking. He will be speaking on improving global food system resilience against geopolitical conflicts under changing climate and polluting soil. So if you can please turn your attention to the screen.
I want to thank Ms. Zinka Kawasaki, the team of Professors World Peace Academy, for inviting me to participate in the forthcoming conference on 25th, 26th of June. I'd like to begin with global issues of the 21st century. Population of 8.2 billion and increasing at the rate of 7.8 million per month. Per capita arable land of 0.22 hectare and decreasing to less than 0.07 hectare for 30 countries by 2025. Soil degradation of 2 billion hectare and increasing at the rate of 5 to 10 million hectare per year. Renewable freshwater supply of less than 1,000 cubic meter for 30 countries and increasing to 58 countries, affecting 4 billion people by 2050. Atmospheric CO2 concentration of 432.3 parts per million today in June and increasing at a rate of 0.5% or 2 parts per million per year. Energy use of 665 to 670 quads in 2026 and increasing by 0.5 to 1.6% per year. Projected to increase by 35 to 50% by 2050. Per capita cereal grain production of 170 kilograms per year and maybe decreasing. Acutely food insecure people at 363 million in 26 and increasing by 45 million due to war in West Asia. Per capita CO2 emission of 6.6 megagrams of CO2 equivalent per year, and the US at 17.6 megagram of CO2 equivalent per year. Humanity's water footprint at global level of 1,385 to 1,800 cubic meter per year and increasing. Therefore, the US Sustainable Development Goals of the Agenda 2030 are not on track for achieving by 2030. Furthermore, regrettably, these issues are being aggravated by war in Eastern Europe and Western Asia. Strait of Hormuz closure has strongly affected the crisis to several regions of the world because of the anthropogenic crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, demonstrated again that the interrelated phenomena of food, energy, water, soil, hunger are human-made tragedies. Disruption in the shipment of oil, liquefied gas, and fertilizers, and import of food for the Gulf nations through the critical checkpoint have documented the tragic vulnerability of global food systems to regional political crisis. The global number of people at a critical level of food insecurity was estimated 318 million in January 2026 and has now increased by 45 million in May 2026 more than doubled since 2019 because of the war in West Asia, crisis in West Asia. Food importing countries in Gulf states, also through the same checkpoint, are Gulf states, Oman, Qatar, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Syria, and Gaza. And in Africa, Nigeria, Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo and Ethiopia, and South Asia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Myanmar. And in South America, Brazil, among others. The Hormuz crisis has created a perfect storm that threatens to destabilize the global food system. Among the major consequences of the Hormuz crisis on global food security is the disruption of fertilizer shipment, 46% of global urea trade. Global estimates of fertilizer import in million tons per year prior to the Hormuz crisis was 19.1 by Brazil, 7.9 by China, 11.6 by India, 6.1 by Africa, 27.5 by South America, and 18.6 by Europe. Farmers in the US who did not purchase fertilizer prior to the crisis are also affected by the estimated increase of 25 to 35% in prices. This is the perfect storm because it's a lose-lose-lose situation for the whole world because of disruptive restrictions of fertilizer, food products, and energy sources. Indeed, a record number of people could face acute hunger even if the war stops now, because the blockade has already proved to be a food security time bomb through disruptions of essential supplies for countries in Asia, China and India, and in Africa, where people may suffer the most. The global food security issue, because the disruption of shipment through Strait of Hormuz, change in the world order, disruption of normal life, higher cost of agricultural inputs, decreased inputs of fertilizer, irrigation, weed and pest management, crop substitutes, rice to sorghum and millet, wheat to barley and oats, Irish potatoes, sweet potato and tuberous, cassava, yam and sweet potato and taro, low agronomic production of wheat and rice, increase in undernutrition and malnutrition, adverse effect on political stability, and of course, more incidents of regional war because of desperateness and serious issues that affect the humanity. Fuel strife and restlessness, these are the cause of downward spiral set in motion by the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, which must be reversed urgently, scientifically, and immediately. Temporal change population growth has been quite an issue for Africa. For example, population 1961 to 2024 went from less than 200 million to now more than 1 billion. Total cereal grain production went up. However, the per capita grain production has come down from 180 kilogram to about 150, 160 kilogram. The temporal change in sub-Saharan Africa of cereal production has an upward trend, but per capita cereal production has a downward trend over the same period because the population growth has exceeded the rate of cereal grain production. And this slope downward can increase tremendously by the crisis in West Asia, along with that in Eastern Europe. However, ending the hostility and promoting peace can increase access to agricultural inputs, increase agronomic yield and farm income, invest in agriculture, industry, and infrastructure, restore soil health and environment quality, strengthen ecosystem services for human and nature, establish and functioning of democratic institutions, and achieving peace and prosperity for all. And that is what is hope will happen if all parties stop hostility. We want to reverse the trend by improving the world peace because it's a scientific issue. Also political issue, no question about that. But it is very important scientific issue as well, because by identifying, developing, and implementing programs that transform agriculture as a part of the solution and an instrument of restoring degraded, polluted soils and ecosystem and destroyed infrastructure by enhancing trust and strengthening peace and harmony. Thus, strengthening the soil-peace nexus is important to humanity's common future. Water and soil functions are adversely affected. Water adversely affects soil properties and water quality with long-term consequences to human health and well-being. The legacy of any war or armed conflict on natural resources include deforestation, degradation of soil health, physical, chemical, biological, ecological, geomorphologic and pedologic transformations, water pollution, and the destruction of wildlife habitat over and above that of the human being. A post-war action plan is needed. In addition to banning war, an action plan must be in place to restore polluted soils, contaminated water, and resources for the safety and well-being of present and future generations, and to provide clean environment for wildlife habitat. Guiding principles for reconstruction of war-ravaged land must be agreed upon and implemented by coherent and systematic policies. Land managers are key stakeholders in implementing restoration plans through the science policy interface at local, state, national, and international levels. War is a crime against nature. There is no other word for it. The modern and highly destructive war on soil and nature are neither bearable from the environmental perspective nor acceptable from the ethical, moral, social, economic, and human perspective. Thus, it's timely and urgent for the world community to work together to minimize risks of such atrocities against soil and nature. Yes, like any other living being, soil and nature also have rights to be protected, restored, and managed sustainably to thrive and flourish for present and future generations. Let us give peace a chance to help humanity and nature. After all, the world is one family. And from that perspective, global peace is a scientific issue. Advancing science of soil health, nutrition-sensitive agriculture, food processing, and biofortification are critical and high-priority scientific issues with a strong impact on world peace and stability. Depleting soil organic matter and declining soil fertility, degrading soils and denuded lands, recurring drought and intensifying heat waves, increasing salinization and reducing use efficiency of water, low crop yield and perpetual hunger, and marginal living and desperateness are as real threat to global peace and security as are ICBMs and nuclear weapon proliferation, because the health of soil, plants, animal, people, and ecosystem is one and invisible. Therefore, rather than burning the bridges or bombing them, it's a time to build bridges across nation. An old man going down a long highway came at the evening cold and gray to chasm vast and wide and steep with water running cold and deep. The old man crossed in the twilight dim, for the sullen stream had no fear for him. But he part went safe on the other side, and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man said, a friendly pilgrim near, you are wasting your time in building here. Your journey will end with the ending day, and you never again shall pass this way. You have crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build this bridge at eventide? The old man replied, good friend, on the path I have trod today comes a fair-haired youth who must pass this way. This chasm that meant not to me, to the fair-haired youth might a pitfall be. He too must cross the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building a bridge for him. Let's build the bridges.
Thank you, Dr. Lal. That was an incredibly important and I think relevant discussion on what we face and the impact of war on us, our environment, but also the potential and great possibilities we have when we can achieve peace. And so now in this portion of our program, we want to go into group discussion time. So if you're joining us here in person, you will go into your tables and you'll find on your table a discussion question on the piece of paper at the center. And you'll have the next 10 minutes to answer that question at your tables. If you're joining us on Zoom, in a moment we will put you into breakout rooms and one of our team members or student representatives will ask the question for your breakout room. Please give the opportunity for every professor and faculty member to respond. And yes, please have wonderful discussions. We'll see you back in 10 minutes. But I hope the discussions for everyone went well. Yeah, I'm seeing smiles, so I always take that as a good sign. We will have time after our program for more networking, so we hope that these conversations continue well after this conference as well. But now we would like to transition into going into the fundamental solutions required for our environmental issues. And our first speaker on this is Professor Alison Wakelin. She has a master's in astrophysics from Princeton University. She taught math and astronomy on the American Army bases in South Korea for the University of Maryland Asian Division. After returning to the US, Professor Wakelin has been a teaching professor in the Physics and Astronomy Department in Widener University in Chester, Pennsylvania, until 2024. She also served as the town chair of Ardentown, Delaware for 3 terms. So please help me as she speaks on love to the land, duty of care.
Hello, everybody. So it looks like the sun is coming out. Does that affect our mood? Does that make us feel better? Yeah? So we agree that the weather affects our mood a little bit, right? So let me ask you a question. Does our mood affect the weather? Who thinks our mood affects the weather? Yeah, a few of us do. All right, so I'm going to read us a little story. A rainmaker was called to a region experiencing drought. He arrived and immediately went into the hut provided for him, only to emerge several days later as it began to rain. When he was asked how he had made the rain, he replied that he had not caused the rain to fall. Rather, when he arrived in the village, he discovered everything to be in disharmony. He therefore retired to his hut in order to bring himself back into balance. Once balance had been restored, then nature returned to harmony, and the rain fell as it naturally should. This is a perspective we have sort of lost. Do you think that we might be out of balance a little bit? Just a little bit, right? Inequality, homelessness, loneliness, politics. So yeah, we're out of balance. So why are we out of balance? So let's have a look at Cosmos and Psyche. Cosmos and Psyche is a book by Richard Tarnas, who is a teacher in the California Institute of Integral Studies. I think that's what it is. And this book, Cosmos and Psyche, is probably my favorite book. So I urge you all to read at least the first 100 pages, okay? It's about 500 pages. So he basically says, the most concise way of defining the modern worldview is to focus on that which distinguishes it from virtually all other worldviews. Very generally, what sets the modern mind apart is its fundamental tendency to assert and experience a radical separation between subject and object, a distinct division between the human self and the encompassing world. So this isn't a great slide, sorry, but it'll serve. So on the right side is us. We think that we are the only beings with purpose and meaning. And everything else, we are in a inert, lifeless cosmos, right? Nature, we don't think of as having a mind, okay? But for most societies, even in the West up to about, say, 500 years ago, there was a much more like a primal worldview where we felt that the self was actually immersed in a living cosmos. So our society, our world now is different. Even here in America, right, the indigenous people had this sense of being immersed in a living cosmos. Okay? This is what we really need to recapture. Okay, let's have a look. I won't read the Pope right now. So the thing is that we don't think of nature as having intrinsic value in itself. We value nature for something instrumental. We think that, our thinking has become primarily economic. We think of the land and resources as primarily economic values, but that wasn't the case in the past. The planet exists for the use of everyone equally. And if somebody wants exclusive use of a piece of land, then they must respect and honor it. So to some degree, actually land ownership has brought about much of our problem. So as you know, Native Americans didn't have land ownership. They were sort of shocked when land ownership came in, which was imposed on them by us. Okay, so I'll just introduce briefly Polly Higgins. She was a lawyer who said, the earth needs a good lawyer. She's well known in Europe, maybe not so much over here. Rather than I own, we need to think I owe, a duty of care to the land. So let's have a look at the indigenous perspectives. This is from David Peat. He's a physicist, a Canadian physicist, and he wrote, he wrote a book called Blackfoot Physics, but this is from a paper of his called Blackfoot Physics and European Minds. Not only do they speak with rocks and trees, they are also able to converse with that which remains invisible to us, a world of what could be variously called spirits or powers or simply energies. This wider reality embraces flux, movement, change, and transformation. Participation within the flux occurs with acts of renewal, which reflect the compacts formed in ancient times, negotiated relationships between the ancestors and the energies, or spirits, or keepers of the land. By such acts, the Blackfoot maintain a harmonious role within the living cosmos. It preserves a norm of balance and harmony. So in this world, everything is alive, right? Rocks and trees. We accept that trees are alive. Do we accept that rocks are alive? Some of us do, which is great. Physics, you probably expect me not to think like that, right? Because being a physicist or a scientist, actually one of the reasons that women, they did research on why don't girls go into physics, maybe about 20 years ago. And one of the main responses was because it doesn't seem to have anything to do with life, right? So anyway, so their reality is much bigger than ours. They do feel that rocks have life. They do feel that everything is alive. Therefore, you have to respect it. And you can make a direct relationship with nature, even with rocks, even with trees. What is knowledge? Knowledge is in relationship. Knowledge is very different in indigenous societies. Knowledge is a coming to know through a relationship. And then they also, when they think of healing, we think of like just taking a chemical substance from a plant, but they don't think like that. For them, healing involves a relationship to the entire plant, and this includes its power, energy, spirit, or in Goethe's terms, its archetype. I won't explain that now. So why did the separation from nature occur? I'm going to blame Isaac Newton, sorry. Right? He gave us a model for the world, for the universe, where matter is inert and not alive, and the universe is a machine. So pretty quickly, people felt, like, we don't need a God, we don't need religion, everything's just sort of running like on a mechanical basis. But our modern understanding then, eventually over time, we became dominated by this sort of thinking. We actually believe that we're living in a machine, most of us. It's only lately, like the last 30 years or so, that we've started to transcend that somewhat. So our modern understanding has removed the meaning and purpose from nature. Okay, why? Why did this happen? So again, Richard Tarnas, this is in another book of his, The Passion of the Western Mind. Humanity took a huge, I put in the word male, sorry, detour in order to gain skills and independence to liberate themselves from nature's challenges, but is now coming back into relationship with the natural world. So we did it for a good reason. Is it bad to try to liberate ourselves from the destructiveness of nature and people were living under nature. They had no control over nature. And maybe we would never have come out of that if we hadn't sort of narrowed ourselves down and worked on this mechanical view. Right? It hasn't been fun, but it has liberated us and given us a lot of knowledge. However, we are coming back, okay? So he says, basically, I believe that the West's restless inner development and incessantly innovative masculine ordering of reality has been a gradual leading in an immensely long dialectical movement toward a reconciliation with the lost feminine unity, toward a profound and many-leveled marriage of the masculine and feminine, a triumphant and healing reunion. And then another thing you wouldn't expect a physicist to talk about is a disincarnate entity called Seth, who channeled through Jane Roberts. And he or she, you can look at it either way, says, the species is in a state of transition, one of many. This one began, generally speaking, when the species tried to step apart from nature in order to develop the unique kind of consciousness that is presently your own. That consciousness is not a finished project, however, but one meant to change, to evolve and develop. Certain artificial divisions were made along the way that must now be dispensed with, especially the idea of nature being a machine and women not being a part of everything, an equal part. So, events of nature, you must return, wiser creatures, to the nature that spawned you. We're part of nature, right? Not only as loving caretakers, but as partners with the other species of the earth. You must discover once again the spirituality of your biological heritage. Now, I am going to talk as a physicist just for a moment. Could the universe exist within consciousness? So, generally, through the 20th century, science has said that the gradual ordering of matter through the process of evolution leads to consciousness, which is an emanation from the brain. But the other perspective, which is becoming more and more dominant, not dominant, but is rising radically now, is that consciousness leads to the gradual ordering of matter through the process of evolution. The consciousness lies at the base of everything. Remember the rocks and the trees? Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. So in physics, quantum physics opened the door to consciousness, right? So in quantum physics, if you decide to measure a position, then you lose all information about momentum and that sort of thing, okay? So in other words, a particle doesn't exist in a specific position until you ask it where it is. Once you pin it down, it's there. Until you pin it down, it's in a superposition somewhere. It could be in several places at once. So we don't exactly know, we don't understand it exactly, but we can't refute that that's the case. Physics has discovered this. The James Webb Telescope that went up recently, you've probably heard of the Hubble telescope. James Webb is even better. It looks further out and sees much more. It's produced knowledge it's produced evidence that really challenges our basic knowledge of the universe. It turns out that galaxies and a lot of the structure in the universe that leads to life eventually was there much, much earlier than our models could predict. So something is moving the universe very quickly to life. Even before the James Webb Telescope, previously, it was a problem for many physicists to try to understand how come the universe looks like it was expecting us? You know, how come everything was like so perfectly formed for the emergence of life? And so the answer to that was inflation, because people said, well, the Big Bang led us to a totally chaotic start to the universe. And then in order to smooth it out, you had to have a period of huge inflation. However, we have found no inflatons. We have found none of the evidence that shows that that exists. Also, we found that heavy elements are produced very early on. Okay, now I've got the 2-minute signal, so I have to give you your homework. Sorry. No, it's a great homework. You'll love it. So I want you each to find, not now, I want you to do this every day. I want you to find a really nice place on campus or somewhere that you like, and I want you to go there 5 minutes every day. And I want you to look for 3 different insects, 3 different plants, and recognize 3 different bird songs. This is your interaction with nature. Over time, you can encourage the insects to come. You can encourage the birds to come. And they will come if everybody is doing that. If I'm right, that consciousness is the basis, then they will come because you're establishing a relationship. And the last thing I want you to do, at the same time, I want you to hug a tree. Even if you're a professor on the campus, I want you to be seen hugging trees. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So leaving this conference, we will find each other hugging trees. But yes, I think that was a really important point, that daily moment, even in that small interaction of listening to the birds or paying attention to the insects, that can make all the difference for us, but also, yeah, in the consciousness, as Professor Wakelin was saying. So thank you so much for that presentation. So next, I would like to introduce Dr. Chris Laszlo. He is a professor of organizational behavior at Case Western Reserve University's Weatherhead School of Management, where he researches and teaches flourishing enterprise. He is the author of multiple publications, all from Stanford University Press, and his research has been published in a wide range of journals. In 2012, he was elected a top 100 thought leader in trustworthy business behavior by Trust Across America. He is a fellow of the International Academy of Management and past chair of the Management, Spirituality, and Religion Division at AOM. Growing up in the Swiss Alps, he became a lifelong nature enthusiast and walks on forest trails whenever he can. He traveled to join us here today, so if you can please help me in welcoming him up to speak on global consciousness and the role of business.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. We've had several very interesting presentations today. My discussion with you is on this topic of spiritual advantage in business, how connectedness shapes leadership, ethics, and enduring value creation. You know, we've talked this morning about some of the problems that Rattan raised, right? Agricultural problems, water problems, climate problems. And then Alison, Dr. Alison Wakefield talked to us about the need for a different mindset about thinking about the land, care for the land. So I've been very interested in these topics for a long time. And what I'm going to share with you is research that I've done in the last 5 months, looking at what does it take for business people, for business leaders, to move towards a kind of mindset that Dr. Alison Wakelin has talked about, so that we can start getting enduring solutions from business. Look, I have been in this field now for 25 or 30 years, and I spent most of it trying to make the analytic business case for sustainability, hoping that if I could prove to senior executives that there was a return on investment, that they would then turn around and do the right thing. But no, I think the record shows that business leaders will do the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit, conserving energy, right? Cutting waste, reducing materials intensity. But if we want leaders, this is the hypothesis that my colleague and I started here for this study. The hypothesis is that if you want business leaders to actually make a positive impact, to somehow improve the state of the earth, that you have to change them at a deep level of self-concept. You have to change them at a level of identity. So I also want to talk about, why does this matter now? You know, we are all aware of the fact that AI, biotechnology, and accelerating change are expanding human capability. So the leadership challenge is not only technological, it's human. One way to think about this is machines are getting better at being machines. Would you agree? Well, humans have to get better at being human too. We have to retain what is uniquely human. And then we have a chance of being able to work effectively with machines. We can't let ourselves somehow be diminished by AI and machines. And global consciousness helps leaders navigate complexity. Now, business is a powerful social institution shaping society, but how can we get business to become an agent of world benefit? My colleague and I used something called the Delphi method, which is a structured approach designed to develop convergence of expert opinion rather than to use statistical generalizations, as is often the case in these kind of studies. What we did was we brought together 30 global leaders across business governance and social enterprise. We had leaders from Japan, from Australia, from China, India, and many countries in Europe, Latin America, North and South America as well. And we tried to understand where there was divergence and where there was convergence, okay, in these opinions of these experts. Now, I just want to share with you that these experts were not spiritual leaders. These were business leaders, okay? These were people who held senior roles in corporations, often CEO, or on boards, governance, or COO, CFO we had also. And so we had an iterative, structured approach to get them to speak to several key questions about what is spirituality for them, okay? What does spirituality mean for them? And what practices do they have that they consider to be spiritual practices of their lives? What kind of benefits does that create for them, both personal and work benefits? And then we had further questions about how that changes them as a leader. So the first point is that we had a very clear, this is inductively, we had a very strong consensus from this group that spirituality is experienced as a sense of connection, interdependence, and alignment between inner values and outer action. We did not have a consensus on the idea that spirituality was about faith in God or ideology. That does not mean that some people did not strongly believe in God. All it means is that there was a divergence, okay? Some people saw spirituality as a lived experience of connecting to self, others, nature. And others believed that spirituality was about their faith in God. But that created a statistical difference, a dispersion. You could see it in the standard deviation of the results. So, pathway to better leadership. So, what these 30 executives identified is that they all had what we call practices of connectedness. These are very different from individual to individual, but they all said that they have something in their life that helps connect them to their self, to the world around them, in a world that is very fragmenting and divisive. I would ask all of you to think about this. What do you do in your life? You know, when we live in a world that's so politically divisive and day-to-day life is so fragmenting, do you have practices in your life that you have in the morning or during the day or evening that help heal you in some way, make you whole? Well, almost every single one of the 30 respondents said that they did. We call these practices of connectedness things like nature immersion, reflection, deep listening, gratitude, mindfulness, movement, and stillness. That these practices, they said, cultivate personal regulation, emotional regulation, and resilience, and also give them a feeling of interconnection, which expands their awareness of their consequences that their actions have across stakeholder systems and time horizon. This key point, this last point is very, very key, you know. If we ask ourselves, how do we find back again these kind of ways of looking at the world? Well, we need to be aware that we're part of a larger system, and what we do has impacts on others. Other people, it has impacts on nature, and it has impacts on future generations. So when you feel more interconnected because of these practices, then you start realizing that you have a heightened awareness that your actions do touch others in this particular way. So really what you want to do is start here with the practices of connectedness, which are foundational. And these practices lead to personal regulation and growth. Thank you. Personal regulation and growth, which is what leads to this felt sense of interconnection. And the felt sense of interconnection, then you go to 3, which is this expanded perception of consequences, which once you have this heightened awareness of how your actions impact others, that increases ethical sensitivity and relational leadership. But one of the things that's very important for us to stress, by the way, this is just being published now, it's just been accepted in a journal and will come out in the next few months. But one thing you should know is that we're not saying it's a direct cause and effect. You know, expanded perception of consequences is important. But for that to then lead to ethical behavior is context dependent. It depends also on a person's values, principles, and the kind of organization and people that they're surrounded with. And then you go from 4 to 5, which is greater ethical sensitivity and relational leadership leads to more stewardship, trust, and enduring business value. The bottom line is that this is good for business, okay? And we're not trying to say that this is a liberal social cause, that business should be doing this stuff because we need to be more woke, or whatever you want to call it. This is just smart business. Businesses that will pay more attention to the spiritual well-being of their leaders will be businesses that are more sensitive to how their actions impact the world around them, that will reduce risks, lower costs, increase revenues, increase brand awareness, and drive innovation. So this is just smart business. Okay, next slide, please. So just in conclusion, what we found in this study is to see it's coming out in the Journal of Management, Spirituality, and Religion in a special celebratory issue coming out in September. Spiritual advantage shapes how leaders act. The key mechanism is a lived experience of interconnection. It's not belief or dogma. Ethical sensitivity increases, but ethical behavior remains context dependent. Stewardship and collective flourishing become central leadership orientations, but governance and execution remain essential. So my final message is, there is hope in business. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Laszlo, for that presentation. So we can appreciate the many different perspectives and disciplines we're coming from as we engage in this conversation on environmental stewardship and interconnectedness. And so now we're going to go into our question and answer session. So we are going to invite back Professor Wakelin to also join us on stage. And at this time, if any of our participants in person or online had a question, this will be your chance to ask our speakers from this last session. So for those joining us in person, if you have a question, please raise your hand and then we'll have someone pass you the mic. If you're on Zoom, you can also raise your hand and one of our tech team members will unmute you. But yes, please feel free to ask your question and then who your question is directed towards. So were there any questions at this time for any of our last two speakers? Oh, we have Dr. Davidson, who's joining us on Zoom virtually. Hello, Dr. Davidson.
Hello. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for your excellent leadership of this session. I did have a question for Dr. Wakelin, and this really relates to the concept of living in a world where everything is alive, including the rocks, the rivers, as well as plants and animals. And I guess my thought here is that the word alive has so many different possible meanings. And I wonder if maybe what we need to do is to look carefully into the meaning of certain words that we use. What do we mean by something is alive? Because absolutely, rocks can erode and then their contents can be part of living beings. We need calcium as a nutrient. We need iron as a nutrient. And so I wonder if this is a matter of a debate over what we truly mean by the word alive. So that's my question.
Okay. So we are made, everything is made of agential material. That means that even like a particle has some measure of intelligence or choice. In other words, a particle is not something that is just obliged to obey the law that was given, that was, forced on it from above, which is sort of the way that physics has thought, that everything is obliged to follow mathematical laws and doesn't have any decision or agency in itself. But if that were the case, there would be no evolution. Honestly, random mutation and natural selection and so on, it's very good. First of all, we'd never reach it. But secondly, it doesn't go in a direction. It doesn't actually move you towards more and more complex creatures, towards life and so on. Something else must have happened. In other words, right from the beginning, there had to be some tiny little aspect of agency. Some tiny little thing, like right at the beginning of the universe, maybe the particles, they were sort of mostly obeying, like their nature. I wouldn't say the law, I'll say that they were obeying their nature, acting in accordance with their nature. But something happened whereby they decided to relate to other particles. The electrons and the protons decided they'd make a big relationship, right? So then that built, and then the hydrogen atoms and the oxygen atoms decided they'd get together. Now, I'm saying it in a very, very anthropomorphic way. But there must be some measure of creativity and choice, even amongst the very tiniest particles. Is this a part of regular physics? It's based on certain, actually it's based on mostly the physics of Alfred North Whitehead, which is process philosophy. He was mostly a mathematician, but he became more of a physicist and a philosopher. And he actually he challenged Einstein also, and came up with a view which some people think, while mathematically it's the same as Einstein's relativity, in fact, philosophically, it's quite different. So when I say alive, I agree, it's probably not the right word. But most people wouldn't know what, if I start talking about agential material, would you know what I was talking about? Probably not, right? So if I say alive, you'll think I'm a bit extreme, but at least you'll know what I'm saying. Okay, so yes, it is becoming part of physics. It is starting to grow more and more. There's lots of papers about consciousness as the basis for the material today. If you go to ResearchGate or academia.edu, there's lots and lots of that. Did you want to say anything about it? Anything about it? No. Okay, next question.
Ben, who had his hand up, if you would like to ask your question, Dr. Keepin.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to make a brief comment. Dr. Alison Wakelin's recommendation for the participants to read the work of Richard Tarnas is one that I fully endorse. The book Cosmos and Psyche, she mentioned, I recommend that you also, as she said, read at least the first 100 pages. It will rock your world, as it did mine when I first encountered Dr. Tarnas's work in the late 1980s. And suffice it to say that I have worked as a colleague of his for 40 years. And what I can say is that what he is documenting and has intuited is a profound interconnection between human consciousness and our local solar system environment. Documented correlations between human affairs and planetary cycles and celestial positions that were traditionally completely rejected by the scientific worldview as, nonsense. And this is a long conversation, and we can only touch on it now, but let me simply say that there have now been several statistical studies that are emerging that are validating the work that Richard Tarnas has done in this book. And the deeper implications are extremely profound and yet completely consistent with quantum interbeing of everything with everything else. They're completely consistent with a full interpretation of a quantum physics model, such as David Bohm produced in the Holo movement. And yet they are very much a radical departure from traditional worldview, including even the quantum mechanical worldview and relativistic worldview that we hold today in science. And there are profound validation that the entire cosmos is alive and living, and actually is living in each one of us. So I won't go further into it now because it's a very long conversation. I'm finishing a book about it myself, but I'm very grateful and was actually very happy that Dr. Wakelin would bring this forward in this conference, because it's a very, very important frontier of science and spirituality that's just now emerging. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keepin, and thank you always for your insight. I also saw here we had Professor Apiafi who had a question, so we'll bring the mic to you. And
I have a deep voice, you can hear me, right? Thank you. Oh, not on Zoom, okay.
Perfect.
Now, I know you talked about the Big Bang, you talked about evolution, now we're talking about rocks. And as I look at creation, I look at the fact that there is a God. I look at the fact that everything was put in place by God, okay? And I just, the question I'm asking is to see how these are connected. And then I know that in the Bible, it tells me that these rocks, if you don't praise me, these rocks can cry out. Okay, that means that, to me, there's life in the rocks if the rocks can cry out. Okay, if we don't open our mouths to do what we need to do, God can make the rocks to speak. So now, I know, that's, now I'm just, so now we're talking about the fact that these rocks evolve and then they break apart, and then there's calcium, there are things that come out that humans need. So what is the connection between that creation and God to what you just said when it comes to this evolution and this Big Bang and rocks being alive?
Okay. So, to me, the God that we have heard of in the monotheistic religions is the Father God, right? It's a very masculine portrayal of God. The God that I experience, sometimes is the Father God, and, every now and again I'm afraid of a thunderbolt if I've done something wrong. But also the feminine God. The feminine God feels with us. Okay, so we have to see that expressed in the creation. So the way that I see it is that God has, I don't mean the almighty, God of like, I just make things happen. But God, in creating, had a reason to create, a purpose to create. And God's most fundamental reason, to my mind, was to create a universe and beings, spiritual beings, with whom he and she could relate. Therefore, it has to, if God could create robots with just putting, giving the law, right? It wouldn't be hard to create robots. But God isn't so happy with just creating robots. God wants humans and maybe aliens, I don't know. But in order to become a human, you have to make your own choices. and you have to be responsible for the outcomes. This didn't suddenly start with humans. This started right from the beginning, at the initial creation. I'm not going to say if it was a big bang or not. I think it was a big something, probably from a point. But yeah, I think that answers the question for me. Yeah.
If I could just add, is it okay if I just add something?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I would say that it is agency that we each of us have right from the beginning in terms of how we act. But a lot of my research, both this recent research and the 10-year effort I did that was published as Quantum Leadership, shows that it's fundamentally how deeply connected we are to our life purpose, connected to nature, connected to other people in high-quality relationships, and connected to God. And it's people who are disconnected from all those things that are likely to do bad things. So I wouldn't advise, for example, anyone to run for the presidency who wakes up early and gets on social media the whole time and then eats hamburgers all morning. Sorry. That was a political statement. I'm getting signs from my wife here not to go there. But no, it is this degree of connection. There have been many of the studies. There was a study published in 1999 by Ian Mitroff and Elizabeth Dentron in the MIT Sloan Management Review, an empirical study that showed for 100 executives that the thing that most contributed to flourishing for them was the extent that they felt deeply connected to the world around them. So that's what we all need to work on. You know, be connected to nature, to others, and to the world around you, and then you'll start doing the sort of things that Alison is asking us to do.
Thank you. Thank you. I saw a hand go up earlier from Dr. Selover, so we'll pass him the mic.
So I really appreciate that comment about connection, and thinking about God as connectedness is a very fruitful way of opening the discussion more. To Dr. Laszlo, I wanted to ask, I think I understand a little bit about how this sense of connectedness, the spirituality of business leaders, affects the business culture, and therefore also the flourishing of the business as well. I wonder if it affects also business choices in directions to go as a business, going into a field, going or not, or how one goes into a new area, how the company goes into a new area, if that's also involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. I think that's a great observation, and you won't be surprised to hear that business leaders who have this greater sense of connection to the world around them are more open to what's been called a stakeholder approach instead of a pure shareholder approach. And when you are willing to engage stakeholders in business decisions, you are starting to take an outside-in approach to making business decisions instead of what's the usual case, which is an inside-out, where you've got 6 people in your executive team who sit around the table and they dream up a report that's then shared with the rest of the organization and, you know, is not owned by anybody. Does it make sense?
One more question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Selover, for noticing that. Wow.
Yes, thank you.
Good observation. I do have a question for Professor Laszlo, and it's about business. And I know that I'm really looking forward to the article because I am in the process of seeking to buy a business. And over the last year and a half, I have been looking at various businesses. So my question is going to be about small businesses, because I know your article is more about the, maybe the major CEOs of different corporations, et cetera. And I'm wondering if there is, because what I've been experiencing is that small business owners, especially those with employees up to 15, really do care, for the most part, about their employees. They care about someone coming in to buy their business who cares and will keep their employees, are not private equity, for example, although a small percentage, will do that. And so you mentioned spirituality between inner values and outer actions. And I feel that this is where I've seen the disconnect, mainly because they're so absorbed in the business. So their values are for their employees and their clients or customers, but it doesn't extend beyond that because they're so consumed with trying to grow or maintain their business. And my question is, have you considered doing similar research with small business owners? Because
Yes, well,
that impacts our country even more.
you've made several interesting points in your question. One is that it's true that I think most small and mid-sized businesses do have a commitment to social good that we don't see in large corporations. I think that's a good thing to remember for all of us. And secondly, I don't believe that it's expensive, that it has to cost the business something to be more environmentally, socially, and humanly sustainable. In fact, some of my studies have showed that it's a way out of a competitive trap for many. There are many small businesses that were on verge of bankruptcy, and they turned to more community relations and to more sustainable products, and that's what got them out of that trap and became more financially successful. What was the last part of your question?
It was asking if you or your partners have considered doing a similar research with small businesses, of all
yes.
small business owners.
Well, in my university, we have a platform that I would encourage all of you to consider looking at. It's called Aim to Flourish, AIM, the number 2, and then flourish.com. It's got over 6,000 stories of mostly small and mid-sized businesses of innovations for good. And there's usually always an interview with a CEO. In fact, it's a requirement for those profiles there to have an interview with a CEO or founder. Okay, it's aim2flourish.com. 6,000 innovation stories there. But they're from around the world. They're not just from my university. It's a platform run by my university, but the invitation is for faculty members to engage their students in finding these stories around the world.
Thank you very much. So aim to flourish. We can remember that. Yeah, and thank you again, and thank you that we picked up, yes, on the last question. Unfortunately, due to time, we are gonna conclude our Q&A session here, but we ask that if you had a question you wanted to ask, please let us know and we can communicate with the speakers to convey your question, or if you'd like to catch them right after the program. But thank you so much for all those who asked a question, and thank you to our speakers for answering. So at this time, we will go into a brief intermission. So we'll go into a 5-minute break if you'd like to use the restroom, grab coffee, grab any food, and we will meet back in 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna start resuming our program. I promise after the event, we will have time for networking, but yes, at this time, we wanted to resume back and actually share a video that the PWPA-LA team has prepared. Over the past several months, we have been working on a curriculum that we've been developing with several of our professors. And our goal with the curriculum is that the content can help cultivate responsible global citizens for environmental stewardship and bridge science, technology, and moral responsibility. It's still under development, but it has content that we felt that as academicians, students, and faculty members, we can work on together. So to briefly introduce this curriculum that's still underway, it's titled Environmental Stewardship in California Through Science and Ethics. We would like to share this short video, so please turn your attention to the screen.
Today, we have more scientific knowledge and technological capability than ever before. Yet, environmental problems continue to grow. Why? What if environmental education could do more than teach students about climate change and sustainability? What if it could help them become the kind of leaders capable of solving these challenges? Professors World Peace Academy Los Angeles is currently developing a curriculum, Environmental Stewardship in California through Science and Ethics, designed to do that. This interdisciplinary program combines environmental science, engineering, sustainability, business innovation, and ethical leadership to help students understand both the causes of environmental challenges and the solutions needed to address them. Students learn from distinguished professors, industry experts, and real-world case studies, including Dr. Michael Stenstrom from UCLA, Dr. Cliff Davidson from Syracuse University, Dr. Nicole Elias from Cal Poly Pomona, and many others. It asks deeper questions. What values should guide innovation from now? How can we balance economic development, environmental responsibility, and human well-being? Consider artificial intelligence. AI can analyze large amounts of data to predict climate events, monitor air quality, and forecast wildfire risks more quickly and accurately. These tools help communities prepare, reduce damage, and make better decisions for the future. Yet, AI also raises important questions. Data centers require significant energy and water. As technology advances, how can we ensure innovation serves both humanity and the environment? For generations, society has often been shaped by the belief that competition is the primary engine of progress. Yet, can many of today's greatest challenges, from environmental degradation to social division, be solved by competition alone? This curriculum emphasizes collaboration. Whatever students pursue careers in, they are encouraged to think critically about the relationship between knowledge, responsibility, and leadership. They explore the idea that lasting solutions require not only technical expertise, but also cooperation, ethical decision-making, and a commitment to serving the common good. It challenges them to see themselves not only as future professionals, but as members of a global community with shared responsibilities for the future of our planet. The goal is simple but transformative: to educate a generation that can combine scientific knowledge, practical problem solving, and ethical leadership to build a world where people and nature can thrive together. We invite you to join us in bringing this innovative educational experience to students and helping prepare the environmental leaders of tomorrow. Together, we rebuild our future society with interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal shared values.
Thank you to the PWPA-LA media team for that video. So as we work on this, we found the importance on developing these ideas and having conversations about the future of environmental education and how it can contribute to the deeper changes needed for a sustainable future. So it's my pleasure today to invite up our panelists for this session. We have various campus sustainability representatives joining us from different college and university campuses, and we want to invite them up for this panel discussion. So as our facilitator, we have our PWPA-LA Advisory Committee member, Professor Grace Apiafi, who will be facilitating this discussion. Joining the panel, we will have Professor Emily Fernandez, co-chair of Pasadena City College's Sustainability Standing Committee. Then we have Ms. Tamara Wallace, Facilities, Energy, and Resilience Manager at my alma mater, Cal State Fullerton. And we will welcome back Dr. David Blekhman, who will be representing Cal State LA for their many projects. And virtually, we have Dr. Adrian Quijada, Director of the Land Grant Office of Sustainability at Tohono O'odham Community College, who will also be joining us. So thank you to our panelists. So we will have two questions we will be asking our panelists today. I think if we can start down here and then we pass the mic as we answer. But yes, due to time, we do ask that the answers can be kept to a few minutes. But yes, I will pass it off to our facilitator, Professor Apiafi, to ask the first question as it appears on the screen.
Hello, everybody. I need you to smile because this is the fun part. All right, we have some fantastic panelists here, and I know that they're well prepared for this. So the first question that they'll be answering, and you guys have this on your desk too, on the table. Today's speakers, that's the human dimension. Today's speakers have emphasized the importance of consciousness, values, and interconnectedness. How can these human dimensions be cultivated through education? That's heavy. There you go, Doctor. We're going to start with you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm back. Well, sustainability has multiple subfields. And the subfield I'm in is energy and transportation. And energy is a very important resource for development of society, industry and society altogether. And so now how we what's the human dimension? And energy doesn't exist on its own. Energy is a resource, and some countries have this resource more or less. Some of these resources are fossil fuels, and some of those resources are renewable energy. But what I teach in my classes, even though they are technical and we look at energy, how it's produced and how it's utilized, the reality is that quite often I have to talk about wars that start over resources. And as you know, this topic already was raised. So it's very important to educate students that their work has effect, or what they're dealing with is a very important, I don't know how to say it, but it's a very important aspect of functioning society, and this is their solutions can prevent wars, right? Their solutions can provide the improvement to the quality of life of people, right? So that's a human dimension, connecting sustainability, connecting my work to the life of other people. So highlighting these topics is very important. And another dimension is politics, right? So again, energy resources are financial. There is a financial aspect to it. And so once you have money, there is a politics involved. And understanding how a political process is propagated through the system is also something that we address. And understanding of politics will touch up on other aspects we will be discussing is your citizenship and your activity for the goodness of the world and society. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, my name is again Emily, Professor Emily Fernandez, and I just want to thank everybody for being here and taking their Friday morning to talk about sustainability. I think it's really empowering to see everybody, and I've learned a lot, so thank you. So I was thinking about where I started with sustainability. I'm an English professor, so why am I up here? I don't know, but I do know why I'm up here, because in 2013 I started looking or choosing. I was given a class on critical thinking in English. It's usually the second class they have to take in a community college for freshmen. The English process. So I was looking at critical thinking, and I was also hoping to do this internship at JPL. So I'm like, how can I do this internship at JPL? I thought, I can look at climate change connected to critical thinking, and it really changed my life, learning about what was happening with climate change. And I became really interested in when you think about critical thinking, how did we become so, how did like climate denial become so prevalent in our world? I was very fascinated about why were we believing the denialism of climate change, and how do we change that? And so we were exploring that. We were at one point I had students write letters to politicians. They were looking at what they were saying about it, and they were writing letters and pointing out the logical fallacies in their arguments and pointing out the kind of scientific issues in what they were saying. And what I wanted them to do is to practice these critical thinking skills. But what I found was empowerment in the students, that they felt so empowered. They realized these politicians don't always know what they're saying. These people in power don't always do the right thing and say the correct things. And they started to realize their own power in their voice. And so after that, I really was focusing on how do we create a sense of power within people who otherwise feel powerless in this world? And how do we face climate change as individuals? And I realized also in teaching I taught Jared Diamond's Collapse, Bill McKibben's Earth early on. We looked at a book on where we read Braiding Sweetgrass by Robert Wakelin. We read Rebecca Solnit's book, Not Too Late. We looked at movies like, it came out in 2015, I think, Living Dangerously or something, Years of Living Dangerously, which was supposed to change people's minds on climate change and didn't. So why didn't it change? What is it that we need to kind of make the change, and how do we stay hopeful in the face of this constant, from climate denial to climate doomerism, that there's nothing we can do, we should just stop. And what I found was that you can't do it alone. There's no individual thing that you can do in regards to climate change. It has to be in community, which goes back to these ideas of interconnectedness. And you have to recognize your own love of nature. So we did a lot of kind of, my colleague, Professor Kathy Kataris, and I worked on this class where we really looked at contemplative environmentalism. That anger and fear don't last very long as emotions, but connectedness and love and like developing hope are very long-lasting and powerful. And so those are some of the things that I realize, and that's why I work with my students in speaking up and using their voice and feeling that power in their body, in community, and connecting with nature in multiple ways. And so I'm also an advisor of the club on campus.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tamara Wallace. Good morning. Sorry, good morning. Actually, good afternoon. My name is Tamara Wallace. I'm getting over a cold from weeks ago, so I just have a lingering cough, so bear with me. I'm with Cal State Fullerton as the Director of Energy and Sustainability and Resilience. Climate resilience is actually part of my position. My background, just a little bit about me, because I think it's really helpful for the context of this question. My educational background is geography. I chose geography because I think in the moment I wasn't quite sure, but in retrospect, everything is all connected. Everything is impactful to other systems, right? The topography, the climate, the economics, the politics, where people are, when people move. So all of it studying those interconnections with systems. So it's a systems thinking approach is geography. I landed myself in sustainability because I was inspired by, I think the climate emergency. Saying that 20 years ago and still saying it today doesn't quite, the ick factor. But we're in this work, right? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Additional to professional and educational background, I found myself in a training for change management, organizational change management. In business, that is like a core organizational thought. For change management, it's a set of tools that you can apply to almost anything, even to yourself, to manage an individual or a large organization through change. So the inevitable change, basically the death of something previous, going through the transition, which is very uncomfortable, to the new, whatever the new is. And so I've adopted that as a way of practice whenever we're talking through things like sustainability, decarbonization, climate resilience, which is kind of the scary stuff. How are we going to survive? But not only survive, be resilient, be adaptive and resilient, stronger from all of this. Finding myself in these different conversations, motivating decision makers through that type of a process has been very, very instructive. To me, as a set of tools, I know what a hammer and a screwdriver and a nail. I know what to do with each of the tools in something like change management. So the practice that I use is called ProSci. ProSci is Googleable. And there's an acronym called ADKAR, awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and then reinforcement. And it's applied through all sorts of things. You're moving from a physical server in your building to save data to the cloud storage. It can be applied for so many different things. But relating it back to sustainability, I think that helps to kind of deconstruct the process of what does it mean to adopt a change? And sometimes it's really scary. But as so many different speakers have said today, there is a net benefit. This is the better business way of operating. There's so many positives that can come out of operating a business, small, large, that come out of that if you are using sustainability practices, principles, policies, and investment strategies. In terms of interconnectedness, last thing I'll say before I pass it back over, I think of it as collective action. So collective action, the way that I envision this, or I picture it in my mind, if you've watched Finding Nemo, the kids' movie, there's a scene. Yeah, I'm getting a thumbs up. I love that movie, right? Finding Nemo, there's the scene where the fish, they get caught in the net, right? And Dory and the dad convince all the fish to swim down. That takes a lot of effort, but once all the fish move in that collective action, they're free. That is the way that I like to think of, it's really difficult, but the amount of power of collective action to make that change happen is like, that's the inspiration. Good job, Pixar, for figuring that out. So I'll pass it back. Thank you.
Good, Tash, Gary. Thank you for this invitation. Let me just introduce you to what is our travel college. Is the Tohono O'odham Community College. It's a 1994 land-grant institution. We embrace sustainability not because it was basically an idea that was coming from the outside. It's part of the life of the Hindak, the way of life of the Tohono O'odham nation for millennia. The Tohono O'odham people basically are the descendants of the Hokokan culture that was established in the surrounding areas of Phoenix in Arizona. And one of the major aspects that they cultivate until today, we're still doing the same thing, is the capture of rainfall, because water is essential. We live in the desert, and living in a very simple and harsh environment teaches a lot every day. And as a consequence, the college has incorporated sustainability in all the aspects, from curriculum development, teaching, student services. And in the case of my job in the land-grant Office of Sustainability, is driving all the programs that we're developing, all the grant proposals that we are submitting are related to sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability at the college, it's not just the typical westernized view of conservation or energy efficiency, but we incorporate the culture as a part of that. And I think the contribution for this conversation is that we need to cultivate and embrace sustainability as a culture, as part of our everyday life. We need to incorporate sustainability as the way how we perceive outside our neighbors, how we perceive ourselves, and the way to create or develop prosperity for ourselves. So right now, the college is developing. We are in the very last steps of developing a sustainability plan for the college. It's not just based on energy efficiency requirements and green policies. It's also very focused in incorporating the cultural aspects that need to be addressed here in the nation. Number one, and probably the most important one because it expresses the whole culture, is language. The UNESCO declared the Tohono language as an endangered. And that's why part of the sustainability plan is definitely the development of a program dedicated to not just rescue, but also re-educate tribal members with language. And that's why the NSF is supporting us with what we call the Tohono Language Center, which is fully capacitated to have a database full of records and information that come from the tribe. We have records of elders that no longer even are alive today. Just to give you a piece of information, nearly 38% of the elder population just vanished during the COVID era. So imagine that was a catastrophic event for the culture. And fortunately, before that, a lot of records have been rescued and maintained in the language center. And I think the message here is that when we talk about sustainability, take it personal and take it like a way or the only way where real prosperity can be achieved. The tribes in the United States understand very well that. And now in our institution, we're embracing that fully. And because we serve for the nation primarily, and we serve for the world in order to show the world that there are ways to get prosperity using the traditional ways. So thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you. Thank you. Did you enjoy the answers that you just heard? Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to the next question. I have to make sure Jasmine is on the same page with me, because I may just take this and run with it. And then she'll say, "What are you doing, Professor?" Okay. So next question, and you have this on your table too. Designing an ideal environmental stewardship program beyond the classroom. Wow. If you were designing an ideal environmental stewardship program that inspires students not only in the classroom, but also in their everyday lives, what knowledge, skills, experiences, and values would you include? Dr. Blekhman, are you ready?
So So from everyone in the audience here, could you raise your hand if you think you're a leader? All right, just a half. All right, let's work with the second half. All right, I think skill of leadership is very important. And it is, some people are more natural at it, some people are less natural. And so I would like to give an example of my son, who is 16 now, but he was 15 when I started working on his leadership skills. I think leadership skills are very important because once you have it, it will, whatever you put it in your mind, and let's hope you will put designing ideal environment is one of your goals, right? And it will actually help us with the third question as well. So this leadership is very important to whatever you do. It's a certain mindset of I can achieve and I can lead other people and provide not only leadership of action, but also leadership of thought, right? So the example with my son was that in his freshman year in high school, he got into bouldering and wall climbing. And so I told him, okay, let's use that as your leadership training. Organize a club at high school, and they have a club rush in the beginning of the sophomore year when he was a sophomore, right? So, and he went through the whole, at first he resisted, you know, like all teenagers resist their parent advice, especially my older son was very resistive. But my second son is a little bit more flexible in his mind, and so he listened to his dad. And and so he set up the club, and it actually created a whole community for him to work with, to go climbing. And there were people from different gyms because, you know, the different climbing clubs or locations. And so now they go and travel as a group to different, and they climb different places, not only the one he goes to. And he has now like-minded friends. And at the end of the year, he ran for Commissioner of Assembly, and there were 3 candidates, and so he was the high school selected him to be Commissioner of Assembly, and now he's in a whole group of high school leaders, and he said it's like about 35 people with different functions that they will be leading the high school this year or upcoming year. So I'm very happy to see that leadership being developed. He listened to that and he tried, and now he's aspired to do even more, right? And so I would like to encourage you to think about and practicing leadership, because through practicing you build your confidence, and then you will build your success stories. And that's my message for this question. Thank you.
Thanks for going first. I was a little stumped on this question, but I think that, you know, just jumping off of what you said, I think that, you know, that we at Pasadena City College, students created a club. And the first thing that we realized with the club is that you need to have sustainability within a sustainability club. And also what we realized is that leadership is about, you're a leader for about 15 minutes before you find other leaders within the group. And then the whole job is to get them to take on that leadership. So it's immediately looking for the next leader. Good leadership is finding the next leader and empowering them with that leadership. So, you know, right away we're like, okay, who's gonna be coming in next? Because especially at community college, we have people coming in and then they're leaving. And we want them to leave. We want them to go on and be really successful. So we don't have them for a long time. So it's about how do you keep this going, and how do you like keep the work going? Because while working for sustainability, working for you know, decarbonization and climate change, it's a marathon, but it's also a relay race. And so you know, sometimes there is this desire, a certain kind of ego that comes out. The confidence can grow into ego, and then it becomes about them doing these things and doing everything alone, taking on everything. And so always stepping back and facilitating and making sure that students are continuing the work, and then also learning how to deal with, because it is a marathon, the exhaustion, the rejection. You know, if you're working in politics, my students have seen that politicians will change dates of meetings when they were planning on doing a presentation, that they will not show up, or they will change your time for your public comment, and you have to work with that, or multiple things that happen in the world of politics that you have to be flexible, and you have to be innovative, and you have to build hope within the group and not let anger rule, because anger, again, is not sustainable. So always looking for the sustainability within sustainability, I think, is really key.
So I'm going to kind of go in a different direction. I'm not faculty. I'm not on the academic side of the university. I'm actually on the business and finance side. So my position is housed in the Capital Programs and Facilities Management Department for the campus. So essentially, we're the campus custodians. We plan, we manage, we plan, we build, we construct, we manage and operate the physical environment of our university. So I'm housed in that department, and my role is to not make sure that like you're doing it right, but more we're being responsible, because we are caretakers not only of the tax dollars that are being used, but these are healthy, maintaining healthy, safe learning environments, research environments for the campus in a sustainable way, in a sustainably designed and operated way. So that goes all the way through all of the construction materials, the energy consumed, the lights that we have on. In terms of what I see as institutions of higher learning, so universities, colleges, it's a gateway. Education is a gateway, and it's a great equalizer for all of our communities, especially universities that have a core mission of accessible, inclusive, and excellent education, like the CSU. I'm proud product of the CSU. So as education is a gateway, what I want to strive to encourage and advocate for is that we model what we want to see in the world in sustainability, and how we cope with and hopefully improve our situation, our climate situation, as the gateway of higher education and higher learning and research. Our physical environment has to embody that as well. So I want that to be kind of the mirror. On the business and finance side of a university, partnering with our academics and our students side of the university kind of needs to be intentionally coordinated and motivating our leaders to go in this direction. Not just do the right thing, but motivate the decision makers to go in this direction. We're mandated to by state law, but it's also a better business practice, and it's going to save the university money. It's going to save students money. So I think that's kind of the way that I want to encourage and mentor students, is by the living laboratories, essentially, of the university that are modeled using those types of practices, building practices and operational practices.
Okay, I agree that the leadership skills are very important. I think fundamental for, particularly in the case of our students, it's something that's fundamental. But I want to enhance two components of leadership. Communication skills. I think that is something we need to really target and go deeper with our students. But then the most important for me, in my appreciation, is community service. We need to send our students to do community service so they can learn how to interact with what could be the future clients, the future neighbors, the future part of the society. And community service is also formative, is so fundamental to humanize again our population. In an era of iPhone and AI, I think community service can provide a lot of relief in all that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the panelists. I know we had a third question, but you have answered that because you incorporated that into your answer to the second question. So I want to say thank you. And because of time, we're not going to ask any more questions. Okay, yeah. But I do want to say that the answers that you gave were so profound because you talked about critical thinking. You talked about making those decisions, ethical decisions. You talked about interconnectedness. You talked about helping the students to understand how they can now practice these things in their lives. Learning the theoretical part is not just it, it's actually doing it that matters. And you've brought that in all that you said. You brought that to our attention. And, we hope that universities and the faculties, members and different administrative staff will be able to work together to ensure that our campuses are leaning towards environmental sustainability. We still have a long way to go. But with forums like this and informing us and educating us and bringing us together, I think the word will go further and we will be able to incorporate more of this onto our campuses and get our students to be more involved. So I ask those of you that are students here, don't just let this go by. Take it to the clubs, take it to your teachers, take it to those that you relate to on campus. Let's start building this. We've been talking about this for a while, but we want to see the effect. We bring all these intellectuals and they come and they give us the ideas, they give us some good stuff, but we need to now take this stuff onto our campuses and use it so that you, the future, will come back, our children, those that will come back and help those that are coming up and those that have gone through to understand more how we can live, connecting ourselves to the environment and making sure that we have a sustainable environment for not just us, but for our children. Thank you.
So if we can give a round of applause to our facilitator and our panelists for their answer. Thank you so much. Yes, and you can take your seat back to your seats if you would like. But yes, thank you so much. I think it's a critical discussion to have. Our campus is often a reflection of our future society, right? The future society is built from that generation that's on our campuses. So I think this is a critical discussion to have. And so thank you again. And we are coming to the end of our program now. And as PWPA-LA, we continue to strive to create these spaces where scholars, educators, and students and professionals can come together, work together, and address these issues because it takes more than just one person or one discipline alone to solve them. And so as we conclude our program, I would like to extend an invitation. As was shared in the video earlier, we are continuing to develop this environmental curriculum. And we believe that its strength comes from the collective wisdom and experience of those who are committed to raising up the next generation. And so our goal with the curriculum, again, is that it can cultivate responsible global citizens for environmental stewardship and bridge science, technology, and moral responsibility. And we wanted to create it in a format that could be flexible, faculty-ready, as a resource that can be implemented or adopted and taught at various campuses. And so we cannot do this effort alone. And so if you're interested in sharing your expertise or research, or if you're connected to a college campus and would like to collaborate with us on how we can pilot and adopt this, we would be honored to work with you. So we hope to stay in touch with each of you, and we hope that this conference is just the beginning of a collaborative effort. and we invite you to join us in this effort. So thank you for taking your precious Friday morning and afternoon to be here with us. Please give yourselves all one more hand for being here. Seeing you all gives me a lot of hope for our future and what we can achieve, and I believe this conference is just the beginning. So at this time, we will conclude our program. Before we do, we're going to take a group photo. So for those on Zoom, you will be led by one of our tech team members. If you haven't seen them, they're the ones doing all the magic over there, helping our program run. So that's our tech and media team. Often unseen, but the MVPs. But one of them will be leading the Zoom group photo, and for us here in person, we'll gather to the left side of the room here to take our group photo. Afterwards, if you would like to check out the poster session room, that's the room across the hall. Some professors have brought their posters to share their work. Out in the hall, we also have articles and also Dr. Laszlo's book, Quantum Leadership, New Consciousness in Business. It's available for purchase out in the hall. So we will now conclude with our group photo. Thank you all for joining us on Zoom. Thank you for joining us. And if we can all gather to the left side of the room.